thanks to everybody who made it tonight. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. And hopefully you guys got something to eat back there. You're all very chatty, so you must have. Okay, moving on. So item 1.03, approval revision of the agenda. We need to table item 6.03 from the consent agenda. May I have, because policy did not have quorum and we didn't have time to get it in advance for the board. So can I have a motion to table that? Thank you, Anne and Chrissy. All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstaining? Okay, great. Anything else on the agenda that anybody would like changed? Okay. Item 1.04, recognition.
Got it. Okay, thank you. All right, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a fantastic educator, artist, and collaborator to recognize the board. Katie Gabriel is the K-12 FM art coordinator and the FM high school art department instructional specialist. She's also a colleague that embodies all that we strive for in Fayetteville-Manlius. If you were at the 4th of July celebration and parade, or if you've been around in the village of Manlius lately, no doubt you have seen some of the incredible work that our FM students and student artists have produced near the Manlius Library and around the village. So as we thought about the best way to honor the Board of Education and to thank you for your commitment to students, families, and employees in the district, we couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to let some of the incredible artists in FM do the talking. So with that said, please allow me to introduce Katie Gabriel, who will in turn introduce some of the FM artists here tonight in order to honor the school board for School Board Recognition Week. Katie.
Hi, everybody. I didn't know I'd be speaking to you tonight at the podium, so I have nothing prepared. But it's an honor to not only exhibit consistently in the community our very talented students, K-12, but also building relationships with them and our community members. I think there's a lot of adults in the community that had no idea that we had such enriching programming here that was interdisciplinary. We had a lot of art students who were connecting with local biologists, the mayor, people on our town boards, village boards, that were able to utilize all of their skills from all of their academics and then channel them through the arts to provide more information, education, and advocacy for the arts in our community. So thank you for everything you do to support what we do. You make it easy for us. And I'd like to introduce some of the artists that did come tonight. We have Izzy Young. Stand up, Izzy. We have Bella Umina back here. Stand up. Ozzy Hill. Hara Yoga Nathan. And Keelan Coates here in the corner. And without further ado, go ahead and open your gifts. Don't cry, Daryl. She already did. So for the people in the back, we had 9 student artists from the high school who decided they also wanted to thank our board members this month. They chose the board member that they wanted to represent in artwork. Again, about half of our artists are here tonight, and their names are on the wrapping paper. So if you wanted to take that off to remember who did what, then I would go ahead and do so. And thank you so much, and thank you to our artists who were able to pull it off this early in the school year. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you, board. We really appreciate you. I'll see you next month.
Thank you guys so much. Oh my gosh. So much. These are beautiful. Okay. Wow, we got food and artwork. This is like, I think we should end the meeting now. Oh, no, right? Oh, can we all show? I was gonna say, oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, if any of you, do you want to sign?
Can they sign it?
There's Sharpies right out there.
Sign it on, they have to open it.
I guess they'd have to open it. Oh, well, no, she did sign mine.
Yeah. Not everyone's here.
Okay. Wow. That's so nice. Some of these.
Did you see Marissa's?
No.
Where's Marissa's?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Sarah has Sharpies. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is so great. So, yeah, well, you already signed it here, but if you, I don't know, whatever you'd like to do.
I'm fine with anything.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, she's got a Sharpie.
Where would you like me to sign it?
Wherever you think. You're the artist.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if you, I don't know the best way to do it. Because someday when you're a famous artist, we can say we have the originals.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Please. Whew. Okay. Oh, we're so. Right, no kidding. Yeah, we're just waiting. Oh, cartwheels in the hall. Yes, love it. Don't worry, principals, we'll be as excited for your piece. If you'd like, you can sign your slides. That would be really great. Oh, also, sorry, I failed to mention, Dr. Tice is not here because unfortunately he is ill tonight. So, just in case everybody's failed to acknowledge that, apologies, Dr. Tice, if you're watching.
All right, I'm back. It is, yeah, we knew it would be really special when, and the good news is that Katie mentioned she'll be back next month, so we'll be taking a look at K-12 art in our first curricular review. So we'll get to hear more, some more good things. And we have lots of good things to share here too. And We're not drawing anything, but we'll draw an image for you about all of the work that we're doing. So it's my great pleasure to present with all of my esteemed colleagues tonight our strategic plan, as well as our building action plans. We always appreciate the time to share with our community and with the board our opportunities for growth, as some of the successes that we've had from year to year. At the very heart of what we do are our students. They're the reason we became educators. They're the reason that we volunteer for the Board of Education. And we always seek to inspire them so that they can find success here, but that they can also find success beyond FM. As a district community, we seek to ensure that in addition to maintaining the academic excellence that is synonymous with FM schools, that we ensure that FM is a positive place that supports both the student and our community, and that we promote the wellness and the success of our students in a way that is both aspirational as well as fiscally responsible. Each year, our Board of Education collaborates with our superintendent to review the current strategic plan and to add new goals. In the summer convocation, our district team spent time digging into that plan, analyzing data from the previous year's building plans, and determining our priorities, which you see up here. As district leadership, we have highlighted the priorities as themes that run through all that we do when we make educational decisions. We want to ensure that as a district, we recognize the whole student and that we prioritize their health and their well-being as well as their academics. We are also a district that leads, and we are just a few weeks away from our board presentation from the Board of Regents on graduation measures. And we've been working well ahead of that date to understand personalized learning and to begin to embed the skills that exist in the New York State Portrait of a Graduate in our curriculum, in our instruction, and our assessment. We do all this while working to ensure that our students have everything that they need in their buildings, in their classrooms, and that we're providing world-class education in a way that is fiscally responsible for our community. These are the through lines that exist in our 4 areas of the strategic plan. Those through lines are very much evident in our district priority area 1, which is teaching and learning. You can see that we have set goals to refine, improve, and innovate within our curriculum, its assessment and instruction. We do this by making sure that our practices align to New York State and national learning standards, and that we provide professional and relevant professional development in a time when there is incredible amounts of acceleration and change. This is why we were one of the first districts last year to bring forth national speakers on AI. And I'm proud to say that our teachers have created a deeper understanding and a better use of AI, both as professionals and for their students who are learning to use it in ways that are ethical and meaningful. As we look ahead to work district-wide over the last year, we've continued to move forward on personalized learning. And I'm thrilled that we have Eagle Hill Principal Maureen McChrystal as someone in our executive administrator position overseeing the growth of personalized learning in FM. We currently have a cohort of teachers who will be engaged in action research this year, focused on personalized learning, especially in the realm of assessment. And Maureen's role will be really integral to making sure that we find opportunities not only for teachers to develop personalized learning lessons, but to engage students and their voice as we think about conversations in personalized learning. In addition to Maureen's work, we have teachers leading the way. For example, in our high school, we have a group called the STEM Dream Team, which is a combination of science, math, technology, and our fine arts teachers who have come together to think outside of the box on interdisciplinary course offerings with a personalized learning focus. We look forward to piloting a few of these course offerings in the coming years, and we look forward to presenting to the board next year on some of the things that we have created. In addition to building this in-house, the district is looking to pilot additional college-level courses with a partnership at OCC. This will allow students to pursue different electives as well as core content areas that could also earn them college credit. On November 5th, so next week, almost a week, we'll have our first staff development day of the school year. And we'll be spending the morning across the entire district thinking about personalized learning in our different content areas and grade levels. Different districts or different groups will actually have created their agenda for the morning. And one example of the myriad of offerings that will be happening with our teachers next week is a collaboration between our middle school and social studies teachers. They are working on a district-wide initiative that started earlier in this year called On Tuesdays We Vote. So every Tuesday, across our buildings, students get the opportunity to vote on something and to really focus on the value and the process by which we vote as a nation. Next week, our teachers in those groups will be thinking about how to expand that across the year. So even past Election Day, we could be using this as a mean to gather student voice across our district on a myriad of issues, whether that's homework, whether that's cell phones. This will be an opportunity to gain that data. Student voice is also part of the literacy pilot in K-6. So we are looking to begin this month to gather feedback from students and teachers, and next month to our families of those who are piloting our 2 new literacy programs. In addition to the hundreds of professional development hours that our pilot teachers have completed this summer, we also had the benefit of multiple days for our pilot teachers to take part in professional learning with the companies that are part of this pilot. We're also fortunate to gather data from our 2 ELA curriculum specialists. I don't know how we would do that work unless we had those people in those positions, because they have the opportunity to meet with all of our teachers on a weekly basis to gather feedback from students, families, from teachers. And that will help ensure the fidelity of the pilot program going forward. We also have a diverse group of teachers and administrators who are part of the MTS plan that was developed in this past year, and that work continues this year. Our district and teacher leaders and building administrators are also part of our district curriculum council. So this year, and this is different from past years, we decided to split that group into a K-6 group and a 7-12 group. That allowed for more teacher voice across different grade levels. It gave time to focus on work that was specific to grade and content levels, and it ensured equity across different content levels. So these 2 groups meet monthly in those places, and then we also have opportunities throughout the year to come together as a K-12 group on multiple occasions. Last year, our groups established the portrait of a graduate as the focus of their work this year. So we are taking a deep dive into the skills that are a part of the New York State Portrait of a Graduate and seeking to think about the ways in which they already are embedded and other ways they should be embedded into our curriculum, our instruction, and our assessment cycle. Thinking about the district's mission and vision in terms of the importance of the whole child. You can't think about teaching and learning without thinking about the incredible work that has happened over the last few years in terms of mental health and DEI. I know a lot of our buildings will be speaking about a lot of this work, but one of the biggest pieces district-wide is the partnership that we now have with Dr. Meredith Madden, professor at Utica University, and founder of Equity Prof LLC. Her name came to us from our teachers and our DEI community council as one of their recommendations to bring her to the district. So she has been with us at the beginning of this year as a keynote speaker for our entire staff. Next week, on November 5th, she will be a keynote speaker working with all of our TAs. She's also helped us create a comprehensive model for CRSE training across the district, in which we will all participate. And we currently have 42 teachers who will be working with her across 6 different groups to go through a CRSE course at a much deeper level, and then use a framework to evaluate their own curriculum. Our goal in this work is to create a curricular review cycle in which every student is able to see themselves, while also learning and understanding this, experiences about those who are different than themselves. This connects to some of our recommendations from the Mental Health Subcommittee from last year, as well as our DEI committee. And it ensures safe and an equitable experience for students who pass through FM. Our second district priority area is the school environment, and that obviously is very much tied to teaching and learning. So much of what we have put forth in past years and this year in terms of our strategic plan is all about data. We've gathered a lot of data. How are we going to dig into all of that? The work with Dr. Madden will continue to be a part of that, as well as the work of our DEI committee and mental health committees. But we have sought to create multiple avenues by which we will, as a district, and have continued as a district, to dig into data. This includes time in buildings from faculty meetings to other spots to review and prioritize the findings in the RMS surveys. That will also be an offering for teachers again next week on November 5th. That will be an opportunity for students, or for teachers rather, to look at feedback. And feedback and data collection has been and will continue to be a part of our district-wide discussions, whether that's about cell phones, whether that's other data points like homework or assessment data. All of those things will also be a place where we will gather student feedback, teacher feedback, and community feedback about our literacy pilot program. Our district survey data was also some of the decision-making about FM's Big Read. So I just heard that we have over 100 people that have signed up to be a part of that tomorrow. And this is another plug for our community to be a part of that conversation. I hope we have a good turnout. When it comes to feedback and things like the Big Read, when we're thinking about things, whether it's cell phones, whether we're thinking about mental health, whether we're thinking about homework, that's not work that the district can do on its own. So anything that we decide as a district or try to enforce as a district, that has to be something that we strive to continue after the school day ends. And so we're very grateful for any opportunity to partner with our families and our community on those big discussions. Those partnerships are also essential to gathering data as we continue to bring forth ideas regarding school start time, personalized learning, homework, grading, and school schedules. And these are all conversations that have been going on and are continuing. We're looking to make big decisions here. These conversations will be a part, all of the above, of our curricular review with Dr. Madden. And they have also been a part of our high school instructional forum, our district curriculum council, as well as building discussions. We seek across all of our group to make sure that we have consistent language and understanding when we have conversations about these big things, because we understand they will not come without a lot of feedback. We're also very proud to say that feedback has been a big part of building a really fantastic MTSS plan. And those things will be continued to be implemented. The Mental Health Task Force and the DEI Committee presented their recommendations last year, and many of these recommendations have been put in place already. Buildings are working continuously to provide mental health support, as well as education on anti-bullying and microaggressions. Some of the work that will be happening with Dr. Madden next week with the TAs will be specific to microaggressions and how we can prevent those in the classroom. From Interfaith Works to Positivity Project, we seek to always put forth kindness, empathy, and mutual respect as a pillar in each of our buildings. Many in our district have actually also begun core work around restorative practices. So I'm very happy and proud to say that Wellwood Principal Trish Fogarty is taking the lead on that across our district. She is also working with Maureen and in conjunction with our assistant principal, Alyssa Haymore, who is taking the lead on the DEI piece in our district. Trish actually led a group to Albany this summer, which focused on implementing restorative practices in school, and Alyssa has already begun facilitating our DEI committee. These appointments are all part of the recommendations of both the mental health and DEI committees, as well as the training that will be provided by Dr. Madden. Our third priority area continues the through lines of what has been mentioned thus far. We're proud to be the only upstate district as part of the Tri-State Consortium. I look forward to a conference with them on Wednesday to be thinking about the ways in which the Tri-State Consortium with new leadership is going to grow and expand. And we're consistently working with the groups that you see here. That's why, again, we're leading the conversation on things like AI. Our district has benefited from a variety of groups working on these recommendations, and we were proud to host a tri-state consultancy here. We are now nearing the year 2 of those recommendations. Since the year and a half ago when Tri-State was with us, Laurel Chiesa, our building administrators, our admin council, as well as our tech committee have been gathering data from buildings and have been working to implement all of the recommendations that Tri-State has brought forth in terms of K-12 technology use as well as professional learning. We look forward to sharing that with you a little bit later this year. We also continue to find service learning projects. Many of you, many people that were a part of that were a part of recognition to the board last year. So we had some recognitions for groups that were working with Sleep in Heavenly Peace, as well as the Forever Animal Rescue. Our art department, our science leaders, our tech leaders are among many who continue to build partnerships with our village, with engineering and technology companies like Micron, as well as higher education institutions like OCC. Next week at our Staff Development Day, we have several groups of teachers who have sought out to do some work on community partnerships. For example, our K-12 art teachers, Art's getting a lot of shout-outs tonight. They'll actually be meeting with the head of visual communications in Syracuse's Newhouse School to be thinking about ways to expand that part of the art world and make connections between some of the work that they can do here and the college. Our middle school and secondary health teachers will actually be meeting with the Fayetteville Fire Department to work on curriculum that aligns to the latest information on topics like CPR, and create more connections with programs in our community like the Junior Fire Camp. This is among some of the examples that will be taking place next week. We're also excited to be welcoming back the instructional fair. We haven't had one since 2019. So that will be a great day for us to really present all of our learning, which is one of the recommendations that Tri-State gave us a year and a half ago, which is We do so much professional development across our curriculum. How do we continue to provide opportunities to share that professional learning? And so that will be a day in which teachers are taking the lead in sharing some of the things that they do. Another big event that will happen in 2025 is our review with the Tri-State Board. So they were with us a year and a half ago, as I said. They'll be meeting with us via Google Meet, and we'll be sharing our reports on our progress, the ways in which we have tried to implement some of the recommendations that they have given us, and the steps that we can take to continue to move forward. Our last area, our priority area, is fiscal capacity and responsibility. There are a lot of areas around the district, both in buildings across the district and with the board, where we're working together to try to make sure that students and teachers have the space, the equipment, and the resources that they need, but that we're doing that in a way that is very fiscally responsible. We are really excited to see some of the amazing new places that exist in our capital project. If you haven't seen the tech wing yet, it's pretty extraordinary. Our middle school and high school teachers will be spending time Tuesday at our staff development day in that space. But this is work that has to happen with a strong team. So that being said, I want to turn it over to the next powerhouse team that I can introduce, which is our elementary principals, to talk a little bit about their building plans.
Hey, everybody. So I'd like to start by thanking everybody for giving us the opportunity to share what's going on in our buildings. The three of us are very proud principals, and we are very proud to share what's going on, what has been working, what we're looking towards improving on, and where we're going and how we're driving our building forward. We're going to start. Well, I'll draw some attention to our little slide up here. We just wanted to highlight a couple great beginning of the school year things. We have Enders Road's Peace and Kindness Day, and they put pinwheels in their garden in the front. And then we love when we get the whole school together, and that was one of Mott Road's P2 assemblies in the beginning of the year. And then at Fayetteville, our art teacher worked with our fourth graders to create positive hallway affirmation posters that are now lining our hallways, and they're just adorable. So we're going to start with Debbie, and she's going to speak a little bit about our ELA.
Thank you so much. And I apologize, I didn't get the memo. They both wonderfully wore FM green, and I did not, so I'm sorry. I will tomorrow to make up for it. The first goal that we'd like to speak to, Catherine mentioned a bit in terms of ELA. So as you know, over the last few years, we've looked through a lens of continuous improvement at ELA K through 6 in terms of our curriculum and instruction. And kind of going back a step to last year, in our building action plan, we had a resource needs assessment that took place to really look at and hone into ELA and where did we need to move forward from. And as a part of that, last year, a program appraisal team, or PAT, was developed, and it's representative across K through 6 classroom teachers, across schools, also representation from special ed and reading teachers. So last year, that PAT team looked at 6 different ELA programs. They had 2 full days to take a deeper dive, looking at the physical materials, online components, and in the end, that PAT narrowed down to 3 ELA programs. And then in the spring of last year, on a professional learning day, all teachers K through 6 had the opportunity to hear from the 3 vendors, to look at the materials, to go into breakout conversations, and in the end, to give their feedback to the PAT team, who last spring narrowed it down to 2 programs that we are piloting this year, so Into Reading and Benchmark Advance. So that brings us to this year, And we have 20 teachers K through 4. I know we are piloting K-6, but as we're speaking about elementary, there are 20 teachers K through 4 piloting, 10 piloting each of those 2 programs. Again, being very mindful that it's a representative group across K through 4 grades and across the 3 buildings. As Catherine mentioned, a lot of support from our amazing curriculum specialists. There's weekly planning meetings and lots of opportunities for those teachers piloting to give feedback. We've also made sure that we've had ongoing and transparent communication with families throughout the pilot, which is really important. Not only those families, if their child is participating in the pilot, for those also who are not, and reassuring them that their child's instruction and educational experience is aligned with evidence-based practices, and that there is certainly systematic, explicit instruction happening regardless of whether there is a pilot taking place. This year, we're collecting quantitative and qualitative data, such as looking at screening measures such as AIMSweb. Pilot teachers are giving input weekly in those weekly training sessions. As Catherine mentioned, there'll be survey feedback from families, parents, teachers, and students. Once a program is selected, a very thoughtful rollout plan will be put into place, and I know there'll be, I believe, a future board presentation meeting later this winter that will give you more specifics. So that kind of walks you through what we accomplished last year and where we're moving forward this year.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Dracy Civiletto, the interim principal at Mott Road, and Alexis and I will look at the next goal, which is under the district priority area of teaching and learning, toward the district goal of expanding opportunities that promote student engagement, educational equity, and personalization of instruction. At the building levels, our goal is to continue to develop and expand our continuum of services for special education at our level. And our strategy to do this is to implement programming options based on students' needs, more building the program around the students instead of trying to fit them into a mold. So in terms of the history around this, expanding the continuum of services for elementary special education is a new goal on our building action plans. However, there was certainly foundational work in this domain in the previous years. Over the last few years at the elementary level, we've been excited to expand the continuum of services by adding additional programming options to better align with our students' needs. These programming options include models for student support, such as direct consultant teacher services and 1211 programming, for example. We are shifting from offering the same options or similar options at each building to offering programming based on students' needs. There have also been many opportunities for professional development related to these shifts.
So I wanted to share a little bit about what the programming at each building looks like. So at Fayette, we currently have a K-1 1211 program, which is our new program this year for our youngest learners. We have a 15-1 program for 3rd and 4th grade. We have direct consultant teacher, or DCT. We have that in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grades, and then we have resource room program for our 3rd and 4th graders. At Enders Road, they have the DCT, Direct Consultant Teaching Services, for kindergarten, 2nd, and 3rd graders, and resource for 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders. And then at Mott Road, we have a new 811 classroom. Those are for 2nd, and 3rd, and 4th graders. They also have a 1211 program for 3rd and 4th graders, Direct Consultant Teacher, DCT, in kindergarten, 2nd, and 4th, and then resource in 1st, 3rd, and 4th. And something that we wanted to really highlight with the varying programs that we offer, like Lisa said, we don't have to try to fit a child into a program that's available at the building. So this year we're looking at more of a district-wide approach to find the best program for each child. So that means that at my in my 1211 program, I do have students that would reside in, say, Mott Road, but they don't have a 1211 program for the K-1 learners. So those students would come to Fayette, so that way they can stay in district in our buildings, and we have everything we can offer them within our own programs. And we are looking at progress monitoring throughout the entire year to determine the best program based on the students' needs. And an example of that is just recently, there was a student at Mott Road who was in a DCT, the Direct Consultant Teacher Model classroom, and the classroom was just a little too big for that student. They were getting a little lost, they needed something more direct. So in collaboration with the building, the staff, and the parents, along with the support of the district office, that student is now a FAIL student in our 1211 program and is flourishing. So we are very proud to have all of these programs available to offer our students and our families. And like I said, they can stay right in our schools, which is where we want them to be.
The next area I want to speak about is BEST, which stands for Brainstorming Educational Strategies Team. And just taking a step back, in last year's Building Action Plan, that is something that Enders Road piloted in the district, and now this year at Mott and Fayal, as well as the middle schools, is being implemented. So BEST is kind of a new approach under the MTSS umbrella. It's a pre-intervention team, which really takes a look at individual students and what they need academically as well as socially, emotionally. You may recall our previous approach was PPS, or Pupil Personnel Services, which was really more of a child study team. And I'll mention a little bit some of the benefits of BEST as I move forward. So BEST, when we implemented it, we really were looking at individual students and what they needed, and just making sure that the teacher voice was really heard in terms of that, and progress monitoring as we put intervention plans into place and specific action plans, and seeing if students were not achieving the goals, then we would come back to the table, reconvene, and set new goals for that child. We did collect some data from last year regarding BEST, and we did find, in terms of quantitative data, there were 65 total students at Enders who did benefit from the BEST model. We had several different tiers of support. Some were just quick solutions and teams problem solving, and then others, kind of our most intensive or kind of true BEST, there were 10 students at Enders who either academically, social, emotionally, or across the board had some struggles that we wanted to support them with. And to give a comparison, PPS, the last year we did that, it was ironic, there were actually 66 students, so almost the exact same number who were referred to PPS. But of those students, at least a third of them, about 23, had actually been referred numerous times, because under the PPS model, unfortunately, we often found ourselves studying the problem, but we never got to that next wonderful step of a solution. So BEST is really, we have found just a wonderful approach in terms of, we not only talk about the problem, but more importantly, we spend more time on problem solving and what does that child need and how are we going to put that into place? What is that going to look like? How are we going to progress monitor, and how will we know when we've succeeded? In terms of qualitative data, we did do a survey last year at Enders Road to see what the feedback was from our staff, and very strongly did find that students were making the gains that we had wanted to see and that teachers felt supported. There were some helpful points of feedback where we did some continuous improvement in terms of just a training for those that are case liaisons or case managers within BEST, as well as just improve some of the forms for communication. But overall, the benefits that we did find through that survey was there was more concrete, measurable action plans and interventions implemented. We were progress monitoring student growth. Teachers, again, reported their voice was heard as they were trying to get support for their students. And in the end, we also did find there were less referrals to special education as we were able to provide more differentiated supports through general education. So this year, Enders is continuing BEST and fine-tuning, and in the other buildings, they're just beginning to receive referrals for their BEST process, making it their own. Each building has the flexibility to make the BEST process work for their school community. But we're excited about the direction we're moving in terms of really being able to target our supports for students. Continuing with the building plan for school environment,
The elementary principals met to kind of dive into the data collected from the district climate survey from last year. That's what helped drive our plans for this year. And in doing so, we realized how valuable collecting data and analyzing it and making steps to move forward with that data is. That's what drove our decision to drill down on some data that we wanted to collect at our building levels. Having 2 new building principals, we really wanted to get in with our staff and really start learning about highlights of the building, areas of growth in the building. So we did this across all 3 buildings by giving surveys to staff to do our own building climate survey to help with areas of improvement within our school environment. And that was surveys that were given out to staff and invitations to meet with the building principals for one-on-one meetings throughout the summer, just to learn a little bit more about what is so great about the building and some areas of growth that they would love to see. With new leadership comes new ideas and new ears to hear all of the things that our staff members are feeling and thinking, and there's an excitement there, and we wanted to give them the opportunity to share that excitement with their new leaders and current leaders as well. We're going to continue to use the data collected to move our building in a direction of making sure that everybody has everything that they need in the school to successfully teach, right? That's what we want. We want to provide our teachers with all of the tools necessary, and making sure that the school environment is a good one for them to teach is going to be beneficial to our students.
Continuing on, under the priority area of school environment, as Dr. Doughton mentioned earlier, we're looking to expand restorative practices across the district, and specifically at the elementary level as well. Last year's accomplishments towards this goal, although this is a new growth area goal for our building action plans at the elementary level, past work in this area has included administrators and teachers attending conferences to better understand restorative practices, implementing some strategies at the Tier 2 and Tier 3 level, and refining reflection practices and opportunities for elementary students around restorative practices. So what are restorative practices in an elementary school community? Restorative practices are a set of strategies that are aimed at building strong relationships and a sense of community among students, staff, and parents, where the focus is on repairing harm caused by conflict through open communication, taking responsibility, and active listening. Rather than solely relying on punishment when issues arise, it essentially prioritizes relationship building over disciplinary actions. Some key aspects of restorative practices at the elementary level include community circles, which are regular group discussions where students share their perspectives, feelings, and concerns in a safe place to build empathy and understanding. Incorporating active listening, where students are encouraged to truly understand other people's viewpoints and validate their perspectives. Using I statements, which teaches students to express their needs and feelings using I statements to avoid blame and to promote constructive communication. Repairing harm, when conflict occurs, facilitating dialogue between involved parties to understand the impact of their actions and finding ways to make amends. Classroom agreements that establish shared expectations for positive behavior and classroom norms collaboratively with students. And social emotional learning, integrating lessons on managing emotions, empathy, and conflict resolution into our daily curriculum. At the elementary level, our primary curriculum for that goal is the second step curriculum. Some of the benefits of restorative practices at the elementary level, based on research and previous work in this domain, include improved school climate, which fosters a more positive and supportive environment where students feel connected and valued, reduced conflict, by proactively addressing potential conflicts by encouraging open communication and understanding. Enhanced student engagement. Students feel empowered to take responsibility for their actions and contribute to the classroom community. And building stronger relationships, encouraging those positive interactions between students, teachers, and staff. So our strategy working towards this goal is to continue to explore restorative practices to develop student problem-solving, communication, and reflective skills. We will work collaboratively with Trish Fogarty, the administrative lead on restorative practices this year, to gain new insights and resources, and continue to work as a team to implement them at our level. In terms of outcome indicators, we'll be looking at discipline and social emotional data to indicate growth in those targeted areas.
And lastly, we have a pilot that falls under the DEI and mental health area at Enders Road, and it really was a grassroots last year through the BIMUS, which at all 3 elementary schools we were doing 3 times a year as a social emotional screener. The data did show we had one particular cohort that was really struggling significantly with some of those foundational social emotional skills. So last year we reframed our counseling supports for that cohort to try to help those students really progress at a more rapid pace. Our data in the spring did show we were moving in the right direction, but did also indicate that students would benefit from more support. So I appreciate a team, our school counselor, family school liaison, occupational therapist, nurse, physical education teachers, our librarian, media specialist, and speech language. They actually all came together and found a program that's called Comfortable Cafeteria and Refreshing Recess Programs, and wanted to implement it. So they did a summer curriculum project and got to work with that, and we've started it this fall. So it's 6 weeks of different units for this particular cohort where we're piloting it that are aimed at making lunch and recess time feel just more emotionally and socially safe and a positive environment for students. So some examples are for the lunches, there's some of the themes are Fancy Lunch Day, What Did You Say, which is focusing on sound level and how we all have different sensitivities to that in a noisy cafeteria. Friendship promotion, mealtime conversations, and just come to your senses, really thinking about how we all have different kind of sensory needs and thresholds. And then for recess, it's wonderful, our physical education teachers are pre-teaching just some different collaborative opportunities that students can participate in at recess. So one is like a friendship scavenger hunt. So we've started this in one particular grade. We are collecting data from the teaching assistants who are supervising, from the students. There's a pre and post survey. We certainly will be looking at that BIMUS data as we try to support this particular cohort, but it's something we're really getting such wonderful feedback that we're hoping to expand it to all grade levels in some capacity. Lunch and recess is supposed to be a fun, social, recreational time for kids, but it is a time also for a lot of anxiety for some students, and we want to make sure that we are creating those opportunities for all kids to feel safe and comfortable. So we'll be looking at that data from the program this year and deciding how to maybe tweak it or to expand it to the other grade levels. So with that, that is everything that elementary was hoping to share with you this evening. We very much appreciate the time. And before we turn it over to our fabulous middle school colleagues, don't know if you have any questions for elementary? Yes.
Actually, 2 quick questions. One is, and I may be going ahead of the program, with the new literacy program, will teachers be ready to implement that across the board in the fall?
I can answer with my knowledge, or I don't know if Catherine wants to speak further. I know my understanding is our hope will be early spring to have selected one program to pilot, and then certainly a very thorough plan for professional development will be put into place, and the hope is financially to be able to implement as many grades as possible as soon as possible.
Okay, and you're going to bring that result to us later in the year?
I believe yes.
So at the January curriculum meeting, we'll actually be taking a look at K-12 literacy, and a big part of that will be taking a look at our decisions at that point. We won't have a decision necessarily at that point, but at that we will be able to give you a lot of quantitative and qualitative data just prior to winter testing, and then we'll be able to come back in spring with what we think that decision will be. Again, we want to ensure that anybody that is piloting will still be able to move into the new program next year rather than going back to Lucy and then something new, and then build as far as we can from kindergarten on. Again, if we're looking just at classrooms right now, that's 97 classrooms, K6. So the budgeting piece will be a part of that. But we have also talked to teachers because they asked, well, you know, is budget the thing that decides the program? It is not. What is best for our students will be the decision.
Okay, my second question, I don't know if Catherine, you need to answer this as well. When you're talking about, and I know I've mentioned this before, when you're talking about the wonderful things you're doing with our students with special needs, I think it's important that based on the expert that we had 2 meetings ago who talked about capping classes at a lower level than perhaps we have in the past, is that something that we're going to implement going forward so that we meet the needs of all of our students in a smaller numbered classroom?
I don't know the answer to that. I think that's more of kind of a district conversation. I think as much as we can, we try to be very thoughtful when we're creating classes and looking at placement. And certainly that ratio is important to keep that as low as possible so all students are getting that attention from the teacher. So some of that's a contractual piece and other parts.
Yeah, it's multi-layered. Yes, it's contractual, it's space, it's hiring, it's all of the things that would go to that. So I think the conversation continues to be had, but it's not as easy as just saying we'll make the class sizes this. It's an important conversation though going forward in terms of what the research says in terms of grade levels.
Right, or whether
Yep.
there's aides that can come in and at least help with that management in the classroom.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's a conversation that has to be had anyway, and in terms of some of the things that we've just heard about, you know,
Right.
with what, you know, new housing, new apartments, hopefully new families coming to the district. It's a much larger conversation, really across the district. So.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Hold on, Dan's got a question. Oh, I'm so sorry.
oh.
I'm so sorry.
And Catherine, this may be to you, I'm not quite sure who's.
We can just sit down, Catherine, come on, come on up.
I wore green too.
So A, thank you very much for the whole presentation, but very specifically to the points you were answering for Cynthia. Thank you for clarifying, because this always needs to be the case, that a curriculum choice is not going to be budget-based, nor should it ever be. But what you're suggesting is that the recommendations, you won't really have the data till spring. Knowing what our budget cycle is, we need to know earlier, but you're really ultimately choosing between 2 programs. Can I assume that they are roughly equivalent in terms of cost for implementation so that we can plan accordingly in advance during budget season, or can you just speak to that, please?
Sure, yeah, we'll actually have the data that we're waiting for that will happen just after when we present to you in January will be our winter assessment data, which is just one data measure in terms of what we're collecting. So that the assessment data, the qualitative and quantitative will be happening throughout the fall and into the winter. So yes, knowing that we're really already talking about next year's budget, and we've been talking quite a bit with principals as well in terms of making sure that piloting, whatever we choose, is going to be implemented as far as we can get it. So we're looking at places where we can, hold budgets, where we can, where are we going to make sure that the money is going to be spent here. I had the first publisher just sent me an email about an hour and a half ago with a quote, but I'm not allowed to see the quote until I meet with them for 20 minutes where they'll tell me all sorts of things that I need to, we'll see. The other is processing right now. So the hope is that by early November, we have a sense of how much it's going to cost in each classroom. And then we build from there. And we're gonna go as far as we can. Between now and January, when we present to the board again, there will be a lot of data coming, not only in assessment data, in terms of classroom data, We will have multiple student surveys that will be will be 3-6. We will have parent surveys, K-6. We thought with the kindergartners to second graders, their families would be able to better speak to their experience, as well as teacher data. So the hope is that we'll have a good sense, but we want to see the winter assessment data as well, because of just how marked a difference you could see in a student between spring to fall to spring, and winter in between. So we're happy to share that when we get it. Yeah.
Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm not at all worried about our 3 elementary schools. They're clearly in good hands, and I'm sure Alexa and Lisa, you're very grateful to Debbie for the help and the visioning your first years. It's great.
Good evening, everyone. Trish and I are pleased to provide an overview of the Wellwood Middle School and Eagle Hill Middle School goals as aligned with the school district's strategic plan. We begin with our gratitude to you. We are grateful for your continuous support in our efforts to encourage, guide, and lead adolescents. Both Trish and I look forward to your continued leadership and community collaboration with our building goals and strategies. We continue to work closely with one another to ensure consistency between buildings with our goals and strategies. At the same time, you will know areas that are unique to each of our buildings as a result of the work of our building action teams, honoring each school's individuality and strengths. At both Wellwood and Eagle Hill Middle Schools, our expert educators are continuously refining our teaching and learning to ensure we are adhering to the most current standards, meeting the needs of all learners, and prioritizing district goals such as the focus on the culturally responsive sustaining education framework, restorative justice practices, and personalized learning. The middle schools are specifically focused on 3 goals of teaching and learning this year. In clearly communicating and implementing a plan for the integration of personalized learning pathways, we are refining the utilization of data on student achievement, including literacy and math skills, aligned with our literacy pilot programs, MTSS plan, school culture and climate data, STAR data, and BEST data. Our goals and strategies will be evidenced in outcomes and curriculum maps that demonstrate both differentiation and individualization. Specifically, during our last faculty meetings, we engaged our faculty members in analyzing and synthesizing triangulation data. Our expert educators identified that physical safety and relationships are significant strengths in both middle schools, while mental health in our community is our collective greatest area of growth, with nearly 65% of our faculty identifying a concern. Additionally, we continue to refine our curriculum to address the revised New York State computer science and digital literacy learning standards. Our Director of Instructional Technology and Curriculum Resource Teacher will continue to develop, deliver, and assess lessons for all students to receive instruction in cybersecurity, networking, system design, digital literacy, computational skills, and the impacts of computing. Lastly, both buildings are continuously and intentionally expanding opportunities to support student engagement, educational equity, and personalization. Beginning last year, our academic enrichment teachers solidified the foundation of our students' knowledge and skills and curiosity and social advocacy. This year, our 7th grade students are engaged in leading Socratic seminars, exemplifying their interest in topics of their choice. My role as the Executive Director of Personalized Learning has provided me the opportunity to collaborate with the high school faculty, members of the English Language Arts, Mathematics, Science, and Social Studies departments at Wellwood, along with the Eagle Hill faculty. I look forward to collaborating with special area teachers at Wellwood and faculty members across all 3 elementary schools. As we continue to engage our faculty members in analyzing and synthesizing triangulation data from our surveys administered last year, we noted that student engagement and relationships are ranked higher by our students than the perceptions of our staff and parents. Our faculty members noted, we noticed the students' points of view are the highest rating compared to staff and parents. We are happy to see this data. We want our students at Eagle Hill to make connections with us. It is our priority. As the school year progresses, the faculty members will continue to discuss resolutions and solutions related to student engagement and relationships. As the previous school year unfolded, Eagle Hill Middle School students demonstrated their agency for change and leadership with Mr. Polari and Teacher Wanovich in developing our Sunshine Ambassadors. This group greeted fellow students and staff members each morning at the beginning of the school day. The ambassadorship continues to grow this year. Additionally, our 8th grade English Language Arts classes, in collaboration with our library media instruction, continue to partner with Gabrielle Chocolate and Ice Cream to design and market a unique ice cream flavor to be selected for production and sale. Finally, we continue to be awed by our students' understanding of our community and agency for positive change. Eric Bong and Charlie Phillips, both members of the freshman class at the high school, led the creation of a colorful masterpiece on our south ramp titled Purple Nova Fusion as the members of Agents of Change course last year. At your convenience, please observe the beauty of the masterpiece as the artistic design captures the following in the words of Eric and Charlie. Quote, as students in the Agents of Change course, we dedicated our time, energy, and research to improving the mental health of students at Eagle Hill by creating a mural that would beautify and inspire positive thinking and well-being. Our extensive research taught us that middle schoolers benefit from a colorful and creative environment. The colors we chose have been proven to relax and calm the adolescent mind. Our title came from sitting with our rough drafts and observing our work. We felt that the painting and design looked like outer space, and from there, we were able to connect our work to each of us here at Eagle Hill. Fusion is the process of joining two or more things together into a single entity. Here at Eagle Hill, we strive to unite, bond, and meld as a community of learners. This mural represents our goal of coming together and synthesizing our diverse ideas, cultures, and traditions. When we accept and appreciate each other's differences, we create a beautiful learning environment. Nova means new. In astronomy, it refers to a star that suddenly shows an increase in brightness, then slowly returns to its original state. At Eagle Hill, we strive to be creative. Each of us has a light inside that shines when we feel encouraged and loved. Red and blue colors are the base, and those colors blend to form the purple hues you see in our mural. Purple symbolizes wisdom, magic, peace, pride, and it is known for its ability to energize and inspire, as well as calm the mind. Please notice the flecks of silver throughout this Eagle Hill galaxy. They represent each of us and the vitality we bring to our wonderful school. Examples of personalized learning opportunities at Wellwood Middle School, particularly in STEM, include our district partnership with Feldmeyer Equipment, where our team leads hands-on projects with 6th grade students studying earthquakes and science. This project involves building earthquake-resistant structures, allowing students to apply engineering principles while building skills in teamwork, collaboration, and problem solving. Last year, our 7th grade science teachers introduced a project-based final assessment, challenging students to explore a scientific question and apply inquiry skills to solve authentic real-world problems. Our 8th grade math teachers also participated in the global event Hour of Code, giving students the chance to apply mathematical skills in coding activities and use RTR rovers. These opportunities provide students with meaningful, personalized experiences.
Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to present the Eagle Hill and Wellwood Middle School Building Action Plan, specifically highlighting, let me switch. I don't want to mess it up. How do I switch the slide? Just the button? Okay. I should switch the slide before I get started, but I'm a little ahead of myself. I'm excited to be presenting our initiatives within the school environment priority area. Our multi-year goals, strategies, and outcome indicators outlined in each school's action plan reflect our commitment to fostering a supportive and thriving school environment. In our efforts to develop the whole child, we continue to expand and refine social-emotional learning, counseling, and mental health services. By leveraging data-driven insights, we aim to implement and evaluate district-wide measures that enhance our tiered support systems for students. This year, we're really excited to integrate Panorama, a new platform that allows us to analyze and evaluate data holistically to better support students through MTSS. Last year, our building level MTSS teams were developed. I feel like I'm going to reiterate a little bit of Dr. Capri's words here, but last year we developed our building level MTSS teams, and we started with a needs assessment, which was then shared with the district level MTSS teams to build a strong foundation for our tiered support systems. What do we already have in place? What's missing? Where do we need to put our focus? While last year our primary focus was on the academic support across all tiers, this year we're expanding to include tiered supports for social emotional learning. So really looking at what do we have in place and what do we need to be filling, what gaps do we have and where do we need to fill in. Panorama is exciting because it's going to be able to enable us to assess the whole student through a comprehensive lens, looking at a student to see grades, attendance, discipline, social emotional skills all in one snapshot. This will align well with our introduction of BEST, or Brainstorming Educational Strategies team. This is a new process for our middle school and elementary schools this year. It's replacing the formal pupil personnel services team model. After a successful pilot at Enders Road last year, both our middle schools adopted this process. We introduced this transition to our staff last year, at the end of last year, and over the summer, our core BEST team members in each building received training to support the shift that has started. And as Dr. Capri already mentioned, our referrals have just started to come in. Actually, today was our first core BEST team meeting to identify what next steps for the student referrals that came in. So we're excited to see the growth and progress of that process this year. As Maureen mentioned earlier, we've engaged our staff in analyzing the triangulation survey data, the report from the climate surveys, so you're looking at the parent, student, and staff surveys together. In doing so, as mentioned, our staff identified physical safety as a key strength across both buildings. Interestingly, though, students have rated the safety domain higher than staff and families, and this offers an opportunity to explore these differing perspectives. An area of growth identified was mental health, which had some of the lowest ratings across the district. Both middle schools benefited last year from the support of Contact Community Services Student Assistance Counselor, and this support will continue alongside a new mental health clinic provided by Arise this year. These resources, in addition to our counselors, school psychologists, and family school liaisons who collaborate closely with Access, have played a vital role in addressing student mental health needs and connecting families with the essential supporting services. Our counseling staff recently, just last week, and I believe will be at Eagle Hill, sat with Access, the Access liaison that we're connected with, to learn more about the community services that they are able to connect our families to, which was really helpful and insightful for us to build awareness of the supports available as we're looking to identify what is best for our kids. Discipline was another area of growth identified in the triangulation survey report, particularly in student responses, though it was not rated as a top priority overall. Both middle schools have begun building a foundation in restorative justice practices, utilizing restorative circles and conferences to address disciplinary incidents. While these efforts are in the initial stages, we recognize the importance of exploring this area more fully, particularly as it has become a district-wide priority. As you heard Lisa speak about this earlier, it's happening in pockets at each level, so I'm very excited to take the lead with this year. This summer, I attended the leadership training for implementing restorative practices K-12 conference. It was provided by the New York State Education Department. And I went to that conference with a small group of teachers and another administrator. This training provided foundational insights into restorative practices. We had the privilege of learning from 2 guest speakers representing different districts in New York, one that implemented restorative practices beginning with Tier 3 interventions and working backwards, and another that started at Tier 1 and progressed upward. Both approaches offered valuable insights and definitely had pros and cons to an implementation like that. Following the conference, I just recently held a consultation with the trainer, our group that went to the conference. We met with the trainer from that conference to assess our own, to really do a deep dive into what's happening here at FM, our current standing, and map out what are our next steps. And she was a valuable tool as we begin this work. I look forward to deepening our understanding as a district about restorative practices. I am currently working with the group who attended the conference to develop an action plan to be presented to the district for implementation. And the areas of relationship, finally, the areas of relationship and physical environment were also noted for growth with specific needs varying by building. And we're really looking forward to continuing to discuss with our teachers in each building and collaborate with them to celebrate those strengths that are identified, but also identify ways that we're going to address the concerns, which there were some commonalities, but certainly some differences between our buildings and things that we need to prioritize. I'm so nervous to hit the wrong button. In our last priority area of service learning and community partnerships, we always have many things to celebrate and continue to support here. This is probably the thing that I think is such a strength at the middle school level. Our students have many opportunities to get involved in sports, clubs, and other activities outside of class at both middle schools. You may recall last year, Wellwood presented to the board on our enrichment period. This is always, as I said, a highlight at the middle school level because clubs are often initiated by student interest, and they offer a wide range of opportunities for students to not only share their interests, but to explore and find new interests and hobbies. So it's always a popular thing when kids get to the middle school level to enjoy. And each year, both middle schools partner with an organization. This year, Wellwood is partnering with Clear Path for Veterans, and Eagle Hill is partnering with Rise Above Poverty to develop additional student service opportunities. A little glimpse at what that looks like in a year. Last year, or each year at Wellwood, our students are actually the ones that select the organization that we partner with each year. We partnered, if you recall, we partnered with Ronald McDonald House last year, and our school community as a whole raised and donated over $6,000 to them, and those were all through student-generated activities that happened throughout the year. It's something to really be proud of. And this year, what we've done so far to kick off the year with Clear Path for Veterans, all of our students attended an assembly to learn about veterans, what is a veteran, and how Clear Path for Veterans supports them, including their canine program, which is always a hit. Our therapy dogs, anytime you bring animals in, it's always a hit with kids. Students had the chance to meet a service dog in training and learn about the training process for them. And our assistant principal, we're very lucky, Shayna Bross, is also involved. She actually is training a service dog named Blaze for Clear Path, so she got to share that with the students as well. We look forward to the continued collaboration with this very impactful organization, and we always think that's important to share with our students and how they can be involved in community organizations and learn about them. Another piece, I'm going to highlight another part of service learning and community partnerships at Wellwood this year that I'm really excited. It's kind of 2 years in the making, but our site-based team has been working to lead to partner more and bring more organizations. How can we bring community groups in, and how can they support the classroom? This year, starting in November, we will be launching our Career Exploration Club. We're going to be welcoming visitors from Schneider Packaging Equipment to demonstrate how robotics, coding, and engineering are applied in real-world careers. Each month, we aim to highlight a new career with partners from our school community to inspire and inform our students about different career pathways that they can take. And really, the importance of this is to connect with our students how the learning in their school relates to what they might want to do later on in life. When you're sitting in math class and you're wondering, why do I have to learn this? This is how it's connected. It's really, the focus of that group is to help make those connections for students and make the engagement that we spoke about, that engagement level increase too. So as the success of our middle schools is grounded on our elementary schools, I'm honored to be able to introduce the next steps for our high school. But are there any questions before we step away and turn it over to our colleagues at the high school?
Great. Thank you, guys.
Tough acts to follow, so here we go. Good evening, Board of Education. Thank you for inviting us this evening to share the FM High School Building Action Plan and Goals for the 2024-2025 school year. That's good advice. There they are, all right. Before we examine our high school plan, I would like to introduce two integral members of our administrative team helping present this evening. Assistant Principal, Biz Wheeler, and Director of Counseling Services, Heidi Green. My name is Patrick McNamara, and I'm the building principal at the high school. As first-year principal, who started as recently as July of 2024, I inherited ongoing multi-year building goals from the past administration, some of which will be discussed this evening. And I also found it critical to understand the building goals specific to the 2023 and 2024 school year as well. I will refer to these past goals when appropriate to show the continuity, growth, and/or areas of improvement moving forward. So our first strategy in the district priority area of teaching and learning was put in place by interim principal John Durkee last year. Mr. Durkee aimed to send out a monthly parent communication through Parent Square based on high school instructional forum recommendations and vetted by staff in order to assist in the understanding of academic, social, career opportunities as students transition throughout their high school career. Our first topic of communication for the 2024-2025 school year will be, you guessed it, our cell phones in our schools as a follow-up to last month's board meeting, as a follow-up to year 2 of our high school cell phone policy, and an upcoming student survey regarding our building cell phone policy, which ESOM and friends will be sending out to our students. Overall, my goal is to send 8 communications to build on the 6 informational pieces written and shared by Durkee last year. Periodically, I will also solicit feedback from parents about the effectiveness and relevance of our communications. As we continue with the priority area of teaching and learning, the most exciting and perhaps most impactful information regarding our plan will come from New York State's Blue Ribbon Commission. As we navigate ways to refine curriculum and instruction to address revised New York State standards and regulations, the New York State Blue Ribbon Commission is slated to put forth new recommendations on graduation regulations sometime next week. These regulations may include adjustments to Regents exams and graduation credits in order for all students to achieve excellence in an equitable fashion. We are also hoping that these regulation changes support our work with culturally responsive and personalized learning. Next up, Ms. Wheeler.
So I'm going to be speaking to digital literacy, and the district goals were initially to refine curriculum and instruction to address revised New York State standards and regulations. They have had a rollout of those over the last couple of years, but this year is the first year of actual implementation of them. They're being implemented and supported by Laurel Chiesa and Amy Fiorito at the high school. There are a couple different things that they're doing, but they want to implement computer science and digital literacy standards, not only within our new STEAM program, or continuing, but the new beautiful building that we have, but also throughout all classes. And so they have started with, oh gosh, I just lost the word, orientation for 9th graders through that. They will receive, by the time that they're done, they will have information and knowledge and education on areas of cybersecurity, networking and system designs, digital literacy, computational thinking, impacts of computing. And in this day and age, with everything that we know they are surrounded with, and AI and all of that, They need to be able to graduate with a fuller understanding. And it's interesting because I would say even, our graduating seniors this year will have less knowledge than our ninth graders, just because of how quickly things evolve. On top of that, I'm also going to speak to our cell phone policy that we started last year. It has continued into this year. The policy seems to be working fairly well, and I will admit we have far fewer referrals about cell phones than I had anticipated originally. The policy, I think, is fair. I think it's equitable, and by the time a kid gets to the second referral, if a child gets there, it most often stops there. It doesn't go much further much of the time, so our numbers are pretty good there. But we want to find a way to balance teaching how to use a phone with mental health, which we know is ultimately a huge consideration in all of our schools and across the country, and even with ourselves among us as grown-ups. So we're trying to find that balance between the two. Thank you.
I was just so eager.
Our next goal is to identify and evaluate potential changes to the high school schedule in order to support student achievement as well as mental health and well-being. The implementation of this new building schedule will coincide with changes to district changes in school start and end times. School start time and building schedule changes are potentially projected for the 2026-2027 school year. But beginning this month and on a monthly basis moving forward, the School Start Time Committee will meet to discuss future plans for the district. The committee will use research and survey data to create school start and end times conducive to student learning based on their age and development. Transportation will also play a major role. At the high school, we would like the school start time changes to coincide with a new building schedule, which could include revisiting homeroom to offer our students a daily social place of belonging, moving our activity period to the middle of the day, having a lunch period for all students, offering freshman seminars, and so on. The potential for this schedule is great, but the work will be equally as great in creating new opportunities for our students. This schedule change will need a great deal of attention, as it will prove to be much more than simply changing the times of our classes and periods. For example, in examining our data from last year, more violations in our code of conduct took place, unfortunately, during our wellness break period, which is fifth period. Wellness break affords students some freedom and autonomy for about a 20-minute period in the middle of the day. A midday activity period could also prove to be similarly challenging if we do not put a great deal of time and thought into making this schedule change. I'm not sure how you can help at this point, but I will be soliciting support from the board as we move forward with those changes. So we look forward to that. Now it's your turn.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the next strategy in terms of our mental health educators, FSL, Contact Community Services, and as you know, we've had a tremendous increase in mental health support over the past few years, and I'm working hard to build capacity across that team. We went from one social worker in the district not too long ago to 3, 1 in each building, to 6, 1 in each building. We've added the Promise Zone specialist, student assistance counselors at the middle school and high school levels, and our mental health educator. So our growth has been tremendous. We continue to await the 2 mental health clinics, and you may remember that we received some encouragement to accept that opportunity from the county, which we did accept in June of 2023. And at this time, we are still awaiting the hiring of mental health professionals to staff those clinics. So at this time, we have a space that's been approved by the New York State Office of Mental Health, but we're awaiting the hiring of some staff members, and I reached out just a week ago, and they're still eagerly looking to hire. As you likely know, I think, Will DeSantis received a promotion at Contact Community Services and recently left FM. He was an angel who arrived just when we needed him. He trained our staff, educated our students, and helped us through some very difficult times over the past 2 years. And just about 2 weeks ago, we welcomed a new mental health educator, Dominic Malara, and I hope to get him in front of you in the near future. He brings new energy and a fresh perspective and is already making great connections with our students. We continue to put new initiatives in place, working on vaping education, bullying interventions, suicide prevention, and this year our FSL has created a district-wide monthly series of virtual lunch and learns, specifically focused on local agencies. In September, David's Refuge presented. In October, Inclusive U at Syracuse University shared their services and opportunities to parents and guardians. I know Catherine mentioned a little bit earlier, but hopefully you're all aware of our big read, Never Enough, which begins tomorrow night, spearheaded by Counselor Dana Pierce and a team of 10 high school educators who are part of FM Zen. They've worked tirelessly to prepare this community event, and we're really excited to get that started. So our mental health team at the high school and district-wide meets regularly, and we look forward to continue growing and learning both at the high school and across the district with our efforts. In terms of partnering with our local community, some of you may know, we formerly had a formal internship program in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. Each year we would host a number of students, and the student with the most successful internship, as judged by a panel of local business experts, would give a scholarship to that student's internship experience. But COVID, change of leadership at the Chamber of Commerce, a retiring Career Center coordinator temporarily suspended our program, and we're eager to get that back on track. We hope to be able to partner with the Chamber, but the Chamber is limited to those businesses who are Chamber members, and we have a lot of area businesses and professionals who may be beyond the Chamber, so we're going to work and figure out what works best. But that being said, we know that asking someone to serve as an internship mentor for 30 hours is a big lift. And so we're planning to seek community volunteers who might be willing to use smaller chunks of time to build a comprehensive job shadowing program. Something, again, that we had in place years ago, but over time has sort of faded a little bit, and so really giving it a kickstart again this year. We're going to start with parents. We have, 5,000 students, 4,500 students in our district, with many, many professional parents and a cross-section of opportunities that we hope our parents would be willing to volunteer, even just to do a virtual meet, a Zoom call, a mentoring opportunity as a job shadow experience. And so we're looking to create really a database of volunteers and so on that we can engage with our students to make connections, and ultimately maybe they would lead to internship experiences. We never expect all of our students will walk out of the high school knowing what they want to do or be when they grow up, just like we probably didn't when we walked out of high school. But we want to ensure they have experiences and the resources to best prepare for life after high school. One example of a partnership that's already underway that you heard a little bit earlier this evening is with our art students, who worked in collaboration with Manlius officials in putting an installation at the Swan Pond and painted the power boxes throughout the village of Manlius. You've probably seen. Ideally, some of these experiences may encourage our students to return to the Fayetteville-Manlius community following their higher education experiences because of the people they know and the careers that may be available to them in our area.
All right, so our final goal is to complete the high school facility project while minimizing interruptions for students and staff. Currently, on a bi-weekly basis, district administrators and the construction management team meet to discuss progress and the best ways to minimize interruption to teaching and learning, in student events and so on. These conversations are further discussed and refined at the facilities committee meetings, which includes several of our esteemed board members. As discussed in these meetings, we are pleased to see advancement today on the covered walkway being assembled between House 1 and House 2. At the beginning of next week, we plan to introduce a new traffic pattern for students between House 1 and House 2 using the new walkway and the art wing hallway. The new outdoor covered walkway will keep students out of the elements and away from critical work being done to our new cafeteria and broadcast journalism classroom. Finally, next month, along with our new main office, counseling suite, and technology wing, We will have full access to our new photo lab and auxiliary gym. This will expand and normalize the instructional possibilities for our photo and phys ed students. This will also allow us to reopen a computer lab for technology use beyond what can be done on student Chromebooks. We are excited and grateful for the future use of these instructional spaces. That concludes our overview of the high school building action plan. Again, we thank you for this opportunity, and we'll open the presentation to questions at this time. We don't have to, but we'd be happy to, for time's sake.
This is more of a comment than a question. Last year, we had a student board member who spoke to what the counseling center has done and the initiatives that have been taken on by the school district and how many students have availed themselves of those services. So that's been a huge job, and thank you for all that all of you have done to make that available to all of our kids.
Pat, I wondered if, when you mentioned the group that you have looking at the start time and scheduling, is that also going to include some student voice on that committee, or?
I'm not sure if it is to begin, but I'm sure it will down the
point?
road, absolutely. And it's a
Great.
district-wide committee.
Oh, okay, great.
You know what's happening. All right, sounds good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
All right, sorry, listen, I just want to say in the last slide here, I just want to say thank you to every single person behind me. There is nothing on that list that is a small thing. Everything that we're doing is huge. If it was just next week and the Board of Regents saying we're going to get rid of regents, that would be a big thing. But it's all of the other big things. So I just wanted to call to mind the little bets piece that we're looking at through the district. And I have a sign on my desk that says, if you do the little things well, you'll do the bigger ones better. And every single person here does all of the little stuff so well. And they do it during contract hours, they do it on weekends, they do it during holidays. Like, I'm just so thankful we wouldn't get to where we are and where we will be without, you know, consistent belief and hope and hard work. So thank you very much for all of the time.
Oh, that's another hard one to follow. Okay. Item 2.02, President's Report. So at our last meeting, we had talked about wanting to discuss ways that maybe the board could get feedback from different community members or faculty or whomever. And so we did talk to Sarah Gridley, and she brought up the potential of using Let's Talk as a platform. It has a separate capability where it could be geared towards contacting the board, and people could provide feedback directly to the board, either anonymously or with their contact information. So if we wanted to have more dialogue with them. So that's something that we're looking into as a possibility to implement, which could go onto our website. So if anybody wanted to reach out to us as opposed to just sending an email, they could provide any comments or questions or whatever it was that they wanted to share with the board. And then the only other thing on here, we're going to get to it in the topics for future. So I know we wanted to kind of go through some of those, and some of them I think we're going to put into committee work, but other ones I think we need to at least try to gear them towards a time frame of when we're actually going to talk about them or have more information so that they're not constantly on our potential topics for future consideration lists, so we can continue to work on that. All right. So item 2.03, superintendent's report. So since Dr. Tice is not here, he has his report posted here. I'll just kind of give a quick highlights, and then if anybody has any questions, we'll have to ask Dr. Tice later. So capital project update, as Pat mentioned, the temporary, temporary walkway has been put in, and they're making continuing progress on that between House 1 and House 2, and some National Grid work has been ongoing. So getting ready for heat for the upcoming winter months, thankfully. Also, Dr. Tice attended the National Mental Health Summit in Pittsburgh with Heidi Green, and trying to look at opportunities where we can continuously improve our resources for students. The school climate and culture survey, so grades 5 through 12 just completed their survey again, and additionally, speaking of surveys, in the annual report that went out, there is a QR code right in the front cover for community members to give feedback to us, about the administrators, about the school, about everything, cell phones, variety of things. So that's coming down the pike as well. Parent council, so they do those every month on the first of the month, and this next one is the day after Halloween, so I'm sure that will be a well-attended Sugarloaf event. But Amy, you are up for that one, so good luck with that. So yes, so anyone that's about special services, so you're welcome to come. It's a great opportunity for anyone who is listening who might want to consider going. It's a nice, intimate setting where you can ask questions and have open dialogue with different administrators about topics. So I would encourage folks to take advantage of it if they can. Yes, you can attend in person or virtually. And I believe that's the extent of the highlights. Okay, moving along. Committee reports, item 2.04. So Daryl, did you have anything from the legislative side?
As I reported to you, the business meeting was long but very productive, and it was a pleasant surprise to find that our amendment was attached, and not by us, but by the resolution committee. So I think we have a fighting chance with that, and that's my next job, is to be pushing our legislators, once they're elected, as soon as we know who they are, to really promote that. And we talked to some of our legislators this evening, just because it is a concern, and I think it is of our town group. They're aware of how difficult it is to build a school, or how long it takes to build a school, I should say. So you may have read in the report, there were over 350 delegates online. It went from 4 o'clock till 9:42, and it was all a very productive conversation. It was, well, as Dr. Bob Schneider said, it was a lesson in democracy. People were able to speak, but it was all civil and, the way things should go. So thank you for the honor and privilege.
Well, thank you for giving your time to do that, and Dan, thank you for helping to craft their resolution amendment there. So I'm glad that it got traction, even though we weren't sure it would.
Just add, I think it's really important that, it's really great that that was included, and NISBA will continue to advocate for that. But we have to own that too. So I just want to make sure that doesn't fall off anywhere this year, that, with our, with our community relations committee or however it's being done, we need to have a plan of continual outreach, not just to our state representatives, but a broader coalition of them, that we need to work on that, because we know the problem that we have in this district of capacity. Just to, to Cynthia's point earlier about size, and we only have the classrooms that we have, and we're going to have more students here. So we have to somehow get ahead of this. And that's only going to happen with state action.
And you did say outreach, not outrage, right?
Well, a little bit of both. A little bit of both is fair, yes.
Yeah, and so Daryl, when is the time frame? It's like during the summer, right, that we would have to be crafting resolutions?
Yes, it's usually July, I think.
Which is funny. So, maybe even towards the end of the spring, we should even be talking about, I mean, that's one path, of course, but even just so we can make sure if we want to have our own resolution written, that we're doing it in advance, to have it prepared for, in time for that, but we have more to do. Yeah. Yeah.
We probably want to start with the new legislative session when it starts in January, and reaching out and then coordinating that with the Daryl, with the legislative advocacy folks in Albany. We used to have those meetings, but I think we do those in Syracuse now usually. It's just easier to meet with the folks in Syracuse. Well, with this one, it would be whoever the state senator is and the assemblyman, or, it'll be a man. We'll go with that one anyway. But we know we're in good hands with you.
Okay. BOCES report, Marissa.
We had our Career Technical Education Advisory Committee meeting last week, which went very well. That's a meeting with local education and industry partners, as well as a couple of us from the BOCES board and some of our administrators to talk about ways we can meet the needs in our community. We had a report that was prepared where local industries and businesses were interviewed, asking where they saw needs, and the idea is that they look at those needs and where they're seeing where they need to hire people and the backgrounds that they need, and try to develop programs to meet those needs. So that's a meeting that we have every 3 months, and that went very well.
And ESAM.
So after our board meeting, me and Zach, the following day, we had our meeting with the advisory committee that we made, and we started making questions on a Google form to send out to every kid in the school, but we only had 506 responses. Not all of them replied, but yeah. We try to ask a lot of questions, but also in a short Google form. One of the questions was, to what extent does social media negatively affect your mental health? And are you bullied or threatened as a result of social media or cell phones? I won't go over all the answers, but if you click on the Google Forms on the board docs, you'll see all the answers and everything. And we also asked them about the cell phone policy, if they would the current cell phone policy, phones must be out of sight during periods, with the exception to study halls and lunch halls. And then the question was for, hang on. I said the current phone policy, phones must be outside during periods with the exception of study hours and lunches. And from 1 was not helpful, unhelpful, to 5 was helpful. And then another question. then we, one of the, like, the font, like, the last question was, trying to pull it up. Is there any change you'd like to see in the phone policy? And then whenever you want, you guys want, you can just go over it then. That's all I have.
Could you explain to this old lady what you mean? So the question, are you bullied or threatened as a result of social media or cell phones? The response is 468 of the 600 student, or well, 500 and whatever. That number is saying they have been? The opposite.
What was the question?
Yeah, it's one.
Okay, I guess I didn't see the key. Oh, the blank one? Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. You're next.
It's interesting to me, the number one reason they're using their phones is for academic reasons, according to this, which is interesting. And then messaging family.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd
Do
be
we
nice.
have all those written answers for the last question? We have access to them. Thank you.
Okay.
So,
When you scroll down, it says 161 are hidden. I'm wondering if that was just a Google, like sometimes they'll just close it off so the pages don't keep going. At the bottom, it says they're hidden. I'm wondering if
I
we
think
could.
some of them might have had some, like, inappropriate words, so Google hit them.
Oh,
Those ones got published. I saw those.
I saw some, yeah.
I don't know, I think it was, Zach had to do it, I don't know.
Okay. Thank you for trying to gather some feedback.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? I think we probably have to review this as a little more detail. Anybody have any questions?
No, I just appreciate having the data. We've always said we need to hear from every group that's involved, and data actually speaks more volume than anything else.
Yeah. Yep. And so one of the things that we talked to Dr. Tice about with regards to kind of next steps was trying to gauge some information about how is our current level of policy practice, what's going well with it, what's maybe not working, so because we didn't really talk about that so much the last time we discussed it. So I believe Dr. Tice is planning to gather some of that feedback from the various building principals, and then at our November 18th meeting, be able to share some of that. And we sort of kicked around the idea of maybe having sort of a board workshop where we could take a variety of inputs, like the survey and the information that the teacher shared and their survey, as well as what Dr. Tice presents from the different buildings, and maybe sort of discuss what we've learned and what we've taken a look at, and if there's something that the board thinks they would like to do as a next step, so we can continue to move this conversation forward. How does everybody feel about that? Sort of the workshop model would, my understanding is we'd have to have a more brief board meeting, but then maybe right afterwards, then we would go into a specific workshop focused on that topic where folks from the community could come and participate as well and provide their feedback, but it'd be an opportunity for the board to just discuss this particular topic, and if we would want to consider looking at policy, gathering more info, whatever it was that we might want to do. just as a way to keep things moving. I- Maybe, yeah. That's, I mean, I think that's what NYSBA certainly is recommending. Yeah, so there's a variety of things, but. Okay, great, silence is good. Okay, let's see, where are we? Public comment. Sarah? We have none, okay. Item 4.01, board development. So Daryl and Marissa, you both attended the NYSBA conference. It would be fantastic if next meeting, maybe you guys would be willing to share maybe a couple of your best topics that you learned about and educate the rest of the board on that. That would be really great. And then also, if anyone is interested in going to the national conference in April. Okay, so item 4.02. So this is the chart that I was referring to earlier. I think some of this we need to kind of clean up a little bit. I don't like having things just continuously sit on a list and not go anywhere. So maybe we could give some thought to, I know we've got RIs identified now, which is great, but I think maybe we need to identify a meeting date or at least a targeted meeting date for when we think we're going to have a presentation on. I know there was a discussion earlier today. We heard about, so Tricia's doing restorative justice. Maybe that would be a great opportunity to hear what she's found and what's happening currently on that subject. The UPK program, I know we've had that one on there for a little while. Is that something that we're still, that the board actively wants to engage in, or can that drop off the list?
So that looking for like a more expanded program and within the, or what was, it's been a while.
It's been on there a long time ago.
But I mean, is that the conversation that we would need to have or that we should be having?
I'll pick words very carefully. We have to have this discussion. We'll start it in facilities committee and continue it, but this has to stay here.
Have the UPK piece on there, yeah. So maybe we can just identify when facilities is planning to talk about it, similarly to like, I think we had enrollment study under facilities / finance committee. So I just would like to get some of these.
I think it's important that it's discussed in facilities as far as like, you know, where the space and all, but I think it also is a discussion, instructional discussion. It falls also under, in terms of how many students, making sure that we have the proper ratios. So yes, the facilities piece is an important part of that, but I think there's a lot of other discussions that maybe need to take place, well, that do need to take place as well.
Yes.
Yeah, my point just simply was this was on here as capacity and funding. Certainly there are other things that can and should be discussed, but just with respect to capacity and funding, we can talk about that offline.
Well, anyway, that's what I wanted to say for myself. Thank you.
Well, and class sizes is on there too, as a separate
Yes, but I just
list
wanted to
item.
clarify that I thought there should be more discussion than just that particular item in regards to UPK. I just wanted to clarify what I was trying to say. Thank you.
So are we so is enrollment study something that's also tasked?
Dr. Tice said last time that they had already reached out to contact, and I think there was an RFP that was being put together for that, so that the date will be dependent on when we get that study
Start to
in.
go from there, okay. School start time bill, or school start time sounds like the high school maybe has a committee, but
She said a district committee, yeah.
Yeah.
So that must be faculty.
So I think we need
Administrative.
to get some more information about that. So, yeah, restorative justice, perhaps we can get on Tricia's calendar for that. Sign language, so, Catherine, is that a done deal, this sign language offering? Yeah, it says for 25-26 school year. It has not moved farther. Oh, okay. I thought it was, did anybody else have that impression that we had, that we were moving forward with it? Oh, okay. That was mine. So, yeah, I guess we'll need to know more about that. Use of AI.
I don't know if American Sign Language course offering is I understand it came to the board, but I would drop this off of our docket because I think it's really a curriculum and instruction issue to look at, and then if it's something that's going to be developed. But I think it was brought to our attention, we put it in the right hands, and we just have so many topics now on our list that we should drill down to sort of what our zone is, Yep.
So, yeah, I think the use of AI, I think that came up as maybe a policy question, perhaps, technology. See, this is where some of these got on this list, and then we forget why they were.
AI came onto this through our conversation about when we were discussing the code of conduct policy and how we were going to be addressing AI in general across the district. And the request at that time was to have some form of presentation of how this was envisioned being used and allowed in the district. And obviously we heard tonight there's a fair number of places where it is being used, but we haven't heard that more specifically coming back.
There was a lot of information presented at the state conference. Quite a bit was on AI and AI policy and law, and even the keynote speaker actually was a robot, so it's quite interesting, yes. So, well, literally, it was really cool.
I think there's a lot of feedback that we can share with that in terms of where we are in the district. I think where we were last fall, it was sort of what's the policy to get rid of it? And now that it's been so widely used in meaningful ways, it's more about how are we teaching kids to use it ethically and responsibly. I think Laurel's and the national conversation about with panic around AI has diminished significantly in the last year. So we'd be happy to share.
Yeah, so maybe that's a topic, because is Laurel presenting about instructional technology later on?
We were going to
Trice.
give an update as we get closer to the 2-year mark with Tri-State.
Yeah.
Share the recommendations and the work we've done.
Could those fit together possibly?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe we'll put
So
that on.
going off of what Rebecca said about removing things, should, because of the current status of school start time, does that need to stay on here? Or should we take it off of here until the community committee makes more progress? Or do you want to leave it here and
Well-
wait for them?
My only thought on that is that it's been on this list for a long time, but, I just want us to make sure that if there are things that we need to be aware of, that we're keeping it at front of our mind, but I don't
This
know.
is the first time tonight that I even heard there was a committee. I don't know what this committee consists of, what's composed of, so I would advocate for leaving this on here
Yeah,
for now.
I agree. But maybe it can come off if we learn a little bit more about the committee. Okay, so the next one, sustainability. Deanna, I think this was one that you had brought up, and I don't know if we all had the same understanding of what it meant, and so it's on the list, but
People thought it was environmental.
yeah,
It
so
was financial.
I think we need to.
It was not financial sustainability. It was more geared around you know, we obviously heard a lot the last 2 years at the time of the budget vote with respect to electric busing, and this was to talk more about some of the broader steps that the district is and has been taking in terms of sustainability and energy performance contracts and awareness and discussion, and in considering whether we wanted to have either a community committee similar to the DEI one that, you know, addressed and talked about this, or some type of a more interactive presentation where people could express what their concerns or desires are and learn more about what the district is doing, which is where the gap seems to be sometimes. So it's just that was put on there as a placeholder for, really frankly, the board to decide whether to approach that or not. Or it could be that, or it could be a combined work of facilities and community relations committee.
Yeah, maybe that's, are there clubs at the, I assume there's like a sustainability club at the high school? Sarah's nodding yes. I just wonder if that's even, Isan, do you know? Before you walk away. What'd you say? Ecos. So, yeah, I wonder if that could be an opportunity for like community relations to chat with that club to see if there's, I don't know, and what is the rest of the board members? I mean, I think it's a topic that we should be exploring, and at least from a communications perspective, what it is that we are currently doing. And I think it's important to a lot of community members here and students. I just don't know who if it's Brad and team that could help fill in the blanks on some of that. Brad and Jeff. Okay. So, I don't know if that's what do you think? I know. It's a question mark on the facilities committee sign, so sustainability, all right.
I think it's something of interest to all of us, but I think we are all somewhat overextended because we're either on DEI or mental health or doing other, you know, jobs, legislative liaison. So, I mean, if Dan were willing to share it, it would be wonderful. Well, doesn't it make sense?
But I think we can have this discussion. Fundamentally, it's the starting point of, is this something that we move forward with a committee on that engages and involves people, or do we start it with more of a town hall type event and presentation and then see where that goes? That's the fundamental decision that needs to be made at the top. And I joke about that, but without Brad here to really get his input, I don't think we can necessarily make that decision.
What if we have our superintendent speak to his cabinet about the issue and see if it's something, and see what their thoughts are before we do anything else?
I mean, just my gut feeling is having a town hall would be there'd be so much work that goes into putting on a town hall in terms of framing the issues. It seems like this is a big issue that cuts across so many different areas that it seems like it's committee work, and if they agree to that, and start there, and then you could build out a town hall with the right people in the room to like have those conversations and frame the issues. But
yeah, well, I also know the Agents of Change kids, I believe year after year, there's at least a couple of them that have taken on different sustainability topics as their project. So there's been research done by our own students, and it would be interesting if any of those ideas ever came to fruition or where they have gone from this Agents of Change classroom. But maybe that's also an opportunity to get involvement with our students. Sure. Homework policy. So, go ahead. So Catherine's name is on that one. She's not looking.
I think that in Catherine's report, she lumped it in with the equity audit and the work with the DEI initiatives already. So I think it has become part of that. Is that accurate?
Homework policy.
The homework policy? Yeah.
hair can come off.
Can't
Yeah.
wait.
Take it off.
So well, I don't know, Dan fought a long time to get it on the list.
But it's being handled.
This has been like, it's been here for 5 years.
Has it been on the list, or?
Yes.
Okay.
And, well, I don't know if it's been on the list, we've been
We've been
talking about it
talking,
for at
that's
least.
what I mean,
And,
yeah.
and, I, as much as I appreciate that, we've been told there's a committee that was working on it, there's a committee that was working on it, and then a committee wasn't working on it, and then a committee was gonna be started on it again, and it's, the problem still persists for a lot of students across this district. And, so I get that I get that it can fold into the curriculum review, but there's still a discussion to be had on this as a district-wide policy or not.
So it's been on our agenda for 5 years, and it's come from a board member, and we've all had some discussion about it over time. But with all these items on here, we do look for a place where it's best suited. Is it a board policy? I mean, we can make everything into board policy issue. We can do that with everything. But I think we had a really good presentation where it showed it fit into something administratively, and to the point where, we've been told about things happening and people weren't sure what was happening. I think that was because it was kind of coming from the board, pushing that we need, well, I don't know if the whole board was pushing that we need to do this. There was discussion about this, and there was questions, but things in FM don't happen in a vacuum, and they don't happen quickly for a reason. They are things that happen, or through a lot of thought process and research, and I think that's the reason why. I know that's the reason why there weren't answers to those questions before now. But we do have a committee that's working on it, and my suggestion is that we move this off our agenda and give it to our administrators to handle.
We did, and we were waiting for what we were told. It was when Mr. Turkey was here, was that he found that committee that we were told was working on it had gone dormant, and he was starting it again. We were told this last spring. And that either is happening or it isn't happening.
But this is a little bit of a different this is now, Dr. Doughton and their team taking a deep dive and assessment with homework very much at the forefront. So this isn't simply the high school level, but it's looking at assessment holistically. And I think it would be tough for us to have like a tandem conversation without maybe first being informed about what their findings are district-wide. So I would support also just moving this off. It's certainly still something we're focused on, but I don't know, that's definitely where I stand.
Well, and I think knowing that it's part of the larger equity audit work, I think we can continuously, we'll look to hear more about it and find out what some of the findings are, and then we can certainly ask for follow-up questions or more information if that's necessary. How does everybody else feel about that? Go ahead.
I just want to make sure we're going to hear back about it.
Yes.
It's sometime in the foreseeable future.
Well, yes. Won't there be at some checkpoint on the assessment, all the work you're doing? Yeah. And that would be the place.
And I think as a board, we need to normalize the fact that we're not going to get quote-unquote minutes. I'm not looking for physical minutes, but like a replay of every conversation that is had in the district about a lot of different things. We get reports. We don't get the daily, because as we heard tonight, the work is being done. I mean, a lot of work is being done. And I think it's easy to get into the weeds and to have an unfortunate expectation of knowing everything all of the time, which is not really good for a board.
Okay, so we'll take it off of the list, but we will look forward to hearing more about it in the future.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Is it a reasonable expectation to put it on a future agenda? And like, what would the time frame of that be? Would it be February, May? I mean, if we can keep a little note like that.
So, let's see, I was trying to see if Catherine's.
Do you want to ask our administrator what a good time frame for an update?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, once we have a plan to have a presentation about how that worked with Dr. Madden, so we'll put that on our list to talk to Dr. Tice about. Spring. Okay. Okay, where are we? We still having more on here? Oh, safety, security audits.
That doesn't need to be on here.
Okay,
That's being handled already.
great. Class sizes. Well, yeah, so it's got I mean, that's also multifaceted because we've talked about like special services, that layer of data from there. We've talked about, academic data. We've talked about social emotional pieces and all of the different aspects that go into figuring out what an ideal, as in addition to capacity of facilities and ability to hire. So Lisa, your name was on it, but I don't know if Dr. Tice, I'm not sure what you would do. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I think there was one more piece to it, and this may or may not be your and Melissa's domain or Dr. Tice, but I think it was something Marissa requested in the last meeting, which is what are the ideal class sizes? So I know we talk about the ratio classroom, but for our classrooms K to 12, what kind of are the ideal? We know what the contracts say, we know kind of what we can do, but what would we like to do in a perfect universe that sort of operates outside of what the projected enrollment looks like. So is there any research or data that says there's a certain number over which it becomes really difficult for one teacher or a teacher plus a teaching assistant? So just like what are the best practices and what do we want for FM, which we know we can't always get everything we want, but.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll circle back with Dr. Tice and see, it sounds like you guys are gathering some information, and then we can talk about that more. And last but not least, the Pool Aquatic Center reappeared because the town of Manlius had sort of dropped conversations, but I believe they were meeting this evening.
I had a chance to ask John Deere about that, and I'm not going to speak for him, but he did say they were still working on that, and they had some things that they were doing. So I think it would be worthwhile if you emailed him just to get a actual formal reply from him, an update as to what they're doing, because he did mention a couple of things that they were working on.
Thank you all. I think it's good for us to go through that. Nobody else wants to add anything, right?
How many did we lose?
I think we lost one. One, maybe two. Okay. Where are we? 5.01, future meetings. There they are. Oh, so don't go to the wrong building. The next meeting is at the high school auditorium, November 18th. Dates to remember, tomorrow, Big Read kickoff. Hope to see you all there. We've got Pop's concert this week, and the fall play is coming up on the weekend. And you will see Spelling Bee. Oh, everybody saw the invite we got for the Spelling Bee to see those very talented students. Jazz and concerts are already starting up, so mark your calendars accordingly. Okay, moving to consent agenda. May I Marissa's moved and a second. Daryl, all in favor? Anybody opposed or abstaining? Well, okay, we are done. So, may I have a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of student discipline matters? Cindy and Chrissy. And after that, we will be adjourned. So everybody in the audience, have a good evening. Oh, we have to have a vote. Everyone in favor of going to executive session? And anybody not? No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for coming and for your presentations.